And welcome, boys and girls, to the Big Bets on Campus College Basketball Midweek podcast. The Weave is here. Matthew Cox, Kai McKeon, Jim Root recording to you on Super Bowl Sunday. So when you're hearing this, you'll be, I guess, a happier, sadder, ambivalent individual, depending on where your loyalties lie. What it means for college hoops, though, Kai, is that we are officially embarking into the spotlight of the sports world, the second stanza of conference play, talking about all kinds of matchups coming up this week. Learned a lot from the following weekend. That was six pack of sections still applies, and we have a spotlight for you. I'm going to talk about Road Warriors. In a year, we're noticing road teams have been better than they have in the last couple of seasons against the number. We'll talk about who has kind of capitalized on that trend or just sort of carried that trend themselves. But first, let's get to the big games. Monday, Tuesday is the focus of our discussion, Jim and Kai. Generally a lighter Monday slate. Tuesday got a ton of good games. But Monday, two doozies. We'll start with Baylor at Houston. The Cougars hosting the now healthy, but oh no, not so healthy Baylor Bears. Without their interior fulcrum, we'll call him Josh O. Kai. I call him Josh O. Got hurt in that game. First game, Baylor has all their guards back, and then of course their big guy goes down. Not a good situation when you're playing Houston, Kai. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Josh Ojanwuna. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I'm
Josh
gonna go
O.
with Ojanwuna. Yeah, Josh O. Yeah, problem. Baylor's a little snake bitten this year. They were able to I would say fight through the adversity without the guards being out for a while. Beat Kansas, beat UCF recently. I don't think you're fighting through adversity against a Houston team without your full strength front line, and a front line that was, by the way, a little undersized to begin with. No offense to Amir, but hey, the dude's 6'7". He's still a great rebounder, still a great player, but he's 6'7", and Houston's length up front is otherworldly, alien-like. Now, Houston's got injury issues of them for themselves, Jim. LJ Cryer, a knuckle injury, for instance. But I think it's going to be their game. I continue to believe this Houston team is elite with Auburn and Duke on that tier. Still number one on both ends, offense, defense, and KenPom. I think they get this one done. KenPom does make this pretty big, 11 points. That does seem high for a Baylor team that can score. But we've seen this Houston team just put teams in body bags, especially at home, especially when they're shorthanded. So I do lean towards Houston this one, Jim. Probably not an official play for me on the podcast, though.
Yeah, this one's tough for me to figure out. I'm expecting Emmanuel Sharp back for Houston. He had his week off to kind of get the ankle right. That's been an issue for him. They got Javier Francis back last game, but three straight kind of iffy efforts from Houston. Like
Yep.
didn't get away from Oklahoma State, did not get away from Colorado, and then the home loss to Texas Tech. It doesn't feel like they're on that same supernova level. Maybe this is where they get back to it. Quick turnaround for Baylor coming to town. And yeah, I think the Ojanwuna injury is massive. Baylor fans are like, he might be our most irreplaceable guy because we
I
don't
saw that too. Yes.
have another one like him. Like they lose a guard, they have like six of them. So they're able to replace the guard and keep the rotation going. But without Ojanwuna, they're like 6'7" up front. The foreign big guy has barely played this year. They're gonna have to play Asamoah a little bit up front. And yeah, against Houston, that matchup's just nightmarish. Can you keep them off the offensive glass? I don't know. Omir's going to have a tall task here, Matthew. So I kind of lean to Baylor just on the price and Houston's flagging form, but the matchup and injury issues kind of keep me away from the Bears.
Yeah, I think Sharp is pretty key. Like the fact that they got Oklahoma State and Colorado in back-to-back matchups to truly give him like that perfect time spot to get the ankle right. I wonder if that's just like, okay, I do think the offense really takes a step forward with him in there. So we'll see if he can stretch out that Baylor D, especially if they do go some zone, Kai. Let's talk Tuesday. The slate is absolutely insane. SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Big East all have big matchups. The SEC has more because they just have more good teams. Tennessee goes to Kentucky. Alabama goes to Texas. And Florida, off of maybe the best win you'll see all season, goes to Mississippi State, who just edged one out on the road at Georgia. SEC road teams maybe starting to bite back after we kind of highlighted how good the SEC home courts are. Ironic when we talk about the Road Warriors at the end of the episode. But Kai, any of these three stick out to you in terms of matchups and projected spreads? KenPom, Kentucky +2, Texas +3, and Mississippi State +5. So three potential home dogs, depending on how these lines open.
Yeah, and it should be noted, we've seen trends in the market this year. Home steam has been a real thing. The market tends to bet these home teams aggressively, sometimes way too much, as we have saw a couple times this weekend. But like Kentucky, Tennessee, for instance, with Kentucky full strength, I'd expect it closer to pick. That's one I would lean towards the Cats. I've been kind of on their side the entire season, especially when they're full health. Understanding that Tennessee is a totally different animal, a beast on Houston's level defensively. But the way Kentucky can shoot really intrigues me there. Alabama, Texas, no real take. Maybe I'll let Jim explain his take on that one. But Mississippi State, we have a spot section later. You can't really get a better spot than this. Florida's off just the most incredible win of the season, just dominating Auburn at Auburn without Elijah Martin, one of their best players, one of their best guards. If he's out again, I don't know if they have two straight heroic efforts in them to a tough Mississippi State team that's always physical, always aggressive, and of course, well coached with Chris Jans.
Yeah, Kai, we always have that anecdotal take of like the first game the guy's out,
Mhm.
the team kind of rallies. And then the second game is where it starts to dissipate down. Teams can't quite measure up the same. But how dare you call Kentucky full strength without Kirk Kriisa, Kai?
Yeah,
He's
well.
not back yet.
Sans
no,
Kerr.
it's about Lamont Butler. I mean, the whole team waxed poetic about how he's their leader, their glue, the guy that just kind of sets the tone for them. And they played much, much better with him back in the lineup. However, we've got the old road revenge angle here, where Kentucky won at Thompson Bowling, Tennessee now going on the road to Tennessee or to Kentucky. That worries me a little bit. I think in a vacuum, I would definitely have liked Kentucky there, but I'm a little spooked by that. Alabama, Texas is an odd game, Matt, because Alabama's entire defensive structure is keep you away from the rim, run you off the 3-point line. Let's force tough mid-rangers. And Texas is like, oh, by all means, we'd love to do that. Play some one-on-one with Trey Johnson, Jordan Pope, and maybe if they get Trayvon Mark back, another shot maker guy there. But I don't love Texas's trend right now. Not a big fan of theirs. And Alabama, they barely beat Arkansas, but they dominated that game. They were up by 20 in the second half. They're at 15 with 4.5 minutes left and gave up a 12-0 run to let it be a little too close for comfort. But I kind of think Alabama's rolling. And interestingly, it's without LeBaron Filan mattering. He's not in the starting lineup. He's not doing anything. It's been Aiden Holloway. It's been Chris Youngblood trending up. I kind of like this version of Alabama, Matt. So I'm tempted to back them as a road favorite there. And I'm with Kai. The home spot for Mississippi State's terrific if Amart's out.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama on the road, we talked about it. They already have 5 SEC road wins. One at A&M, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, just at Arkansas. The only one they haven't won all year was that first one against Purdue. I'm with you. I kind of, that's the one where I'm looking to go against the SEC home team. I will say on the Florida Mississippi State, Kai, KenPom has it projected +5. I got to think that's going to be closer to 3. I
Yeah.
can't imagine the Gators laying more than 3 at
No.
Stark Vegas. But again, we will see where the market stands on that one. Again,
Yeah,
as you
that's one
mentioned,
where I would not bet it below 3. If it's 2.5, that's hands up. No more value.
All right, Big 10, Big 12, Big East. Big 10, 2 notable games, Kai, Purdue at Michigan. And this is where my only best bet from the big games will lie. Hint, hint. And then UCLA goes to Illinois, who quote unquote got right with a dominant win at Minnesota over the weekend, finally healthy, looking like the juggernaut we saw early in the year. Anything on those 2 games before we get to the Big 12, Big East tilts?
Yeah, well, Illinois, yeah, first of all, a get right game, sure. I wouldn't call them all the way back, beating Minnesota. No offense to the Gophers, but not the strongest Big Ten team. Yeah,
Hey, they
Michigan,
were hot, though. I guess a hottish.
look, I continue to doubt Michigan because of that half-court shot that went in and the closing number. Michigan didn't cover again for the 7th straight time against the closing line against Indiana recently. Now, they should have. They were up the entire game. But the point is, though, recently they've been kind of just sneaking by teams, like it's skin of their teeth sort of thing. The record's very good in Big Ten play. They're 10-2. They could easily be 8-5, or excuse me, 8-4 or 7-5 in this league. Purdue, however, is a well-oiled machine, man. I've been so impressed by this team, kind of kicking everyone's ass in the Big Ten. And Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, both right now, Jim, top 10 KenPom Player of the Year. They've been fantastic all season. So I like Purdue in that game.
Yeah, deservedly so. I mean, they like both those guys are just hyper productive every single game, so consistent. And they have to be because their depth of offensive options not overly great, but when those guys are playing as well as they are every single night out, it's fine. I'm curious what your best bet is, Matt, because the first game between these two, Purdue demolished Michigan.
Yeah.
They were up 30 in the first half. Like it was not even a competitive game. I think Purdue's got a nice strategy for making the bigs of Michigan move around, and starting Caleb first means they can handle that 4-5 pick and roll a little bit. Painter has well schemed very well against it. So I kind of think Purdue completes the sweep there, Matt. It asserts themselves atop the league. But
Yep.
before you give your input, Illinois, UCLA coming across country again. Another excuse for Mick Cronin, another chance for him to whine about the travel in this conference. Illinois playing well. They shot over 50% from three at Minnesota. We kind of thought we were going to see upward regression from their shooters. Got a better Yakichonis game. 21 assists for the team. I think Illinois is back, and UCLA traveling that far is good news for Illinois. So I'm going to bet Illinois if it's less than 5.
I lean Illinois. I actually lean Michigan pretty. I mean, this is my official
Here we
investment.
go.
Yeah, I think everything about how lopsided that first matchup was will swing in this spot. And I don't like that Michigan's got to come off the Wednesday, Saturday spot where Purdue went Tuesday, Friday. Kind of have the extra day of rest and prep on both those increments leading up to this game here. But Michigan's sort of playing with their food, their non-cover streak. I think in a spot where you're backing them just to win the game at home at a really cheap price, I think this is a good spot to actually back Michigan. I think we saw this with FAU last year, actually, Dusty. They were terrible in conference play against the spread, but they did cover in a few of those big games where the game was closer to pick. I kind of feel like I get deja vu vibes of that with that Dusty team last year. Obviously, different team this year entirely, but that spot similarity, I can't ignore that. So, and obviously, I'm a Dusty homer, so there you go. Biases are probably at play here. Big 12, Big East. So, Kai, Arizona goes to K-State, who might be, I don't know, the hottest team in the country, just in terms of mojo vibes after where they were.
Quite literally, they are the hottest team in the country per Bart Torvik.
Okay, I thought they had top 3. What's your filter date there, Jim?
January 25th, since their winning streak started there, number 1. And if you go back further to just after the Houston loss, they're number 11 in their last 8 games.
I'm right in between there. So yeah, I think I have them 5th. I mean, they've just been awesome, right? They've been sort of playing to the talent hype that we saw preseason. Kai, the number here, they will not be +5 to Arizona at home. Will they be pick against Arizona? I feel like this market will set this something over the top. But again, to Jim's point, at what point is this recent trend real? Kai, I kind of like K-State here, but it's impossible to project without knowing a number. If it was 3, sure. I'm not sure I'm going to pick it to pick, which again, I do think it's going to be closer to pick than 5.
Also, KenPom had Kansas 6 over Kansas State, I think, on the road. That game closed 3.5, and it would open 4.5. It never even had a chance to go higher than 5. Arizona, I would assume kind of similar story. People, again, the market loves home steam. Now, it's not a rivalry game. It's a little bit different situation. But man, I'm kind of nervous to fade Arizona at this point. They've been kind of shoving it up my butt the last couple of games. I haven't necessarily been fading them every game, but I faded them with BYU. They took care of them pretty easily on the road. Texas Tech, I thought we all thought, that was not a bad spot for the Red Raiders last week. Took care of business against them, beat Iowa State, beat Arizona State. I mean, they've been covering pretty regularly, and they look
6 in a row.
Yeah,
6 in a row.
6 in a row, and they look like a well-oiled machine. They look pretty much at their peak right now. So it really is a battle of heavyweights here. Heck, 5, I would definitely lean towards Kansas State. 3-2, no chance. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you want it to get to double possessions there. I keep going back to this comparison of last year's Alabama versus this year's Arizona. Non-conference, pick up 5 losses against a murderer's row of a schedule, and then get into league play and start crushing. Advanced analytics were telling us, or predictive stuff was telling us that this team is incredible, and now we're getting the results to prove it. Oh, you guys just synchronized sipped water. That was pretty funny.
That was awesome. That was amazing. No one listening understands that, but that was cool. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Alabama started SEC play 11-2 after the 5 non-conference losses last year. Top 10 KenPom team. Arizona has started Big 12 play 11-1. Top 10 KenPom team after 5 non-conference losses. The drum beat's too similar, Matt. It's kind of a clash between a fireball and a volcano right now. Both these teams are scorching. I'm too spooked to pick a side. I actually probably would lean Arizona because Kansas State off the Kansas win. Maybe they're not going to have the same emotional lift at home, but this is one I'm going to stay far away from.
Yeah, Arizona. Jaden Bradley was kind of my guy coming into the year. He's starting to play it's always going to be Caleb Love's team. Caleb Love would never let another player take the rudder away from him, but Bradley's been awesome. I think he's really stabilized that backcourt. Yeah, again, it's a price thing for me. I probably won't get involved. I feel like the price won't veer too far either direction outside of what I would bet either way. But yeah, so a fascinating kind of tug of war in the market between how hot you are, what your true form is, and all that stuff, and the KenPom versus market opinions. Last one here, we'll talk about some mid-majors. Kai, UConn at Creighton, Big East. We just saw Creighton close -4 against Marquette. I think we discussed throughout the week and in our Discord, everyone kind of felt like Creighton was the right play there, just the way they were playing. Marquette not having that same defensive juice. And sure enough, the jump shooting Jays got hot and took it to Marquette. Now, do you lay the same price if Ken Pom mimics the market, has it -4 here against the Huskies? We just got Liam McNeely back last game.
Yeah, is that 10 straight covers for Creighton? I'm pretty sure it is, which is an insane number, of course. Yeah, flashback, January 3rd, around that time, UConn was 19th in KenPom, Creighton was 53rd. Now Creighton's 30th, UConn's 34th. These teams completely flip scripts. Obviously, UConn has been dealing with the injuries. Heck, I thought they were going to beat St. John's when they had McNeely back, and they looked pretty good for a while, and St. John's just kind of exerted their will after some time. But Creighton's been unstoppable, especially at home. Very scary team to fade. Now, UConn, of course, great coaching staff. Always kind of scary to fade them. Still have PTSD from ever trying to do that in the tournament in the last 2 years. But I do lean towards Creighton. For Jim, that sounds high to me. Again, wouldn't be surprised if it takes money up to 5. Although there's also the school of thought that, hey, McNeely's back, second game he's back. UConn, a little bit underrated in analytics, maybe back the dog. It's going to be a bit of tug of war in the market, I think.
Yeah, this is a dueling spot versus kind of matchup thing for me in my mind. Spot, Creighton, yes, they're home. They're 4-0 at home against UConn all time. Only 2-2 against the spread, but Dan Hurley has never won in Omaha. I think that matters a little bit. They always seem to get hot in this game. I know UConn fans will tell you it's a house of horrors for them. But the matchup, it's odd because you're coming off St. John's and Marquette for UConn, where they turned it over 47 times combined in those 2 games. Mm-hmm. And Hurley was furious about that, talked about it in the presser. And now you're playing Creighton, who never, ever, ever, ever turns people over. They are a hyper-conservative drop defense. They don't want to pressure you. They just want to force you into the shots they want you to take, the mid-range stuff. And I think we're going to start seeing a better version of Alex Karaban, Matthew. He's been awful lately, like losing confidence. And just getting McNeely back, I think, is a huge, huge lift offensively. This isn't the kind of team that's going to take UConn out of its offensive rhythm the way that Marquette and St. John's did. So that's the matchup where I lean to UConn, but then the spot is more Creighton.
Yeah, I think solo ball is like the quintessential X factor in this. A guy who can really space the floor. And he's got that catch and shoot green light from NBA range now. I think that Hurley and the staff have leaned into him as a weapon because you're right, they just haven't had a good Karaban or a healthy McNeely. So I think Ball's confidence is going to be key for UConn here going on the road. Obviously, the Jays are hot at home. No one beats them, right? That's sort of you got to hope they're not going to go 15 of 30 from 3. Even a good UConn game probably didn't get you enough. Again, nothing profound for me. Let's move to the mid-majors.
Did you see Ashworth did the big balls dance against Marquette?
I saw his first
Stevie Ashworth gets a little swagger to him.
A little into himself. Yeah.
I like his big balls dance. He is a kid. He is a kid. He can do it.
He's old, man.
He's proven it.
Yeah. He's proven these work. Check him out.
Good for him. All right, to the mid-majordom. Monday's light, as we have kind of continuously bemoaned on this podcast. Southland action, though, fellas. Any takes on this? There's actually some good games. By the way, the Southland's up to 21st in the overall KenPom conference rankings. It's just worth pointing out. We talked about preseason how good this league was. Like, there's money and player retention and like player acquisition. It's a real league, and I hope that I think we'll see whatever comes of the seat of the represent. I mean, probably McNeese, but there are some real threats I think now for McNeese in this tournament. Any Southland takes, guys, on the Monday? So I had nothing. I took a quick glance. Some better ones on Tuesday.
Furious that Stephen F. Austin finally showed up and smoked Corpus Christi. SFA has been a team I bet on like consistently this season because they're supposed to be good. Since they fired they're 2-3-1 maybe. Didn't cover against New Orleans in the overtime game, which is shocking. But yeah, Southland's tough for me to get involved in, man. These teams are just like, I don't think most of these teams, Jim, are not playing to their historical norms, and that trips us up when we are far away from the extras and these teams start going topsy-turvy. Like Houston Christian's good all of a sudden. Lamar is better than they've ever been. McNeese, of course, is Will Wade, but Northwestern State's playing well. Grand Valley's having its best season ever. It's just an impossible league to predict, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, you go back through history, and over half the league is outside the top 300 in KenPom every single year. Yep. Mm-hmm. And this year they have more teams, and only 2 are outside the top 300. Like, everybody's competent. I took a bad beat on Houston Christian last week, Matthew. I thought it was a great spot
too.
against Nichols. I'm going to run it back with them. That's the one I like the most here. Craig Doty's got them playing extremely well all season. Been one of the best ATS teams in the country. Just got to win at home against Southeastern Louisiana, Southeastern as they mostly go by. I think this is where Houston Christian gives me some love this time, unlike last week. So I will take the Huskies again.
Well,
They
they've
beat him
covered
on the
like every
road
game
earlier
until
this year.
then.
Yeah.
Wait, oh yeah. Nichols is tough, man. I hate fading. I lost a lot of money fading Nichols, as we'll get to later in this show.
Have you lost a lot of Nichols? Fading
A lot of
Nichols?
Nichols fading Nichols. I
Couple
wish
A lot of
dimes.
dimes fading Nichols. Yeah.
Yeah. So just a few dimes. I love that dimes is shorthand for thousand. It's like one of the coolest thing gambling nomenclature did. All right, let's go to Tuesday, Kai. A10 action, Maction, single A, Maction, and then WCC. St. Mary's hosting Santa Clara. That's sort of one I want to get to. But George Mason at SLU. You're a Billiken whisperer, sort of. Do you have any take on this one? The Bills have been pretty good at home this year. Beat VCU, did not beat Dayton. I think that was kind of a flat letdown effort, but proven against St. Bonnie's and, like I mentioned, VCU, similar type teams to George Mason. They took him down. I mean, I kind of like SLU in this spot, no?
I guess I lean their way in the spot, but it's just a really tough team to bet on because of the injuries this season. It's kind of a lost season for sure. It's really disappointing. This team should have been incredibly good. Then they had a bunch of injuries. Larry Hughes decided to transfer. It's just been kind of a throwaway season, unfortunately. And George Mason, I didn't see who wrote the article, so apologies whoever wrote it, but it was a glowing article about skin, about how this program finally has an identity. Hilarious. After getting rid of Kim English, this program gets way better. No shit. No shit. Mason's been playing awesome. They've been playing like the best team in this league. Now they still have not played VCU yet. Their schedule is pretty tough the next 3 games with St. Joe's and VCU after SLU. So we'll see what they're really made of. Spot Jim SLU, Mason, a team I don't want to fade, so I'm staying away.
You guys are missing the biggest storyline in this game. It's shirts for skin.
That's pretty good.
That's credit to West
That's
Pine Bills.
good.
I saw him tweet
That's
that.
pretty good.
It's fantastic. Ultimate
Oh, the
storyline.
Jimerson. Oh, you have it here. Sorry, the Jimerson ankle too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's actually probably the bigger storyline.
Yeah.
Jimerson left last game for SLU with an ankle injury, and they have 3 guys that can score. You take him out, and George Mason is the #1 defense in the league by far. It's a top 15 defense nationally. They just do not allow easy buckets, and if you've got 2 guys that can score, Swope, Avila, they're gonna swarm those dudes, make Dylan Warlick and Max Picar and Kobe Johnson score. I just worry that SLU doesn't have enough bodies, enough scoring. Jimerson might play. We don't know. It's ankle, like that's TBD day to day kind of thing, but they did not practice on Saturday, so we don't know what his true status will be. I would lean George Mason here, Matthew, just based on the shorthandedness. So skin over shirts.
Yeah, I guess again, the Jimerson ankle is really everything. They just don't have any margin for error. Kai's St. Mary's, they've been a wagon.
Yeah.
Looked vulnerable at I guess just at San Francisco last Thursday, but then got right with the Oregon State win. They host Santa Clara, kind of that's one of those NorCal WC bouts. I've been a Santa Clara guy for a while, but I didn't trust them in that first meeting. I was glad to not trust them. I don't trust them here again. I have no bet on this game. My bet is don't bet against St. Mary's. Do you have a take here?
Yeah, I thought you lost faith in Santa Clara this year. You were on their bandwagon, then you went off.
I did. I saw too much. They blew late games. They're soft. They don't play defense. I mean, they're really talented.
Yeah.
And they can beat teams by a lot, but I just don't trust them.
We're
like
not
an elite level.
We're not fading St. Mary's. No,
Exactly.
if anything, it's a bet on St. Mary's. Yeah, game 1 was an absolute killing. They were up by 30.
Run, right?
Yeah. They were up at 28 at one point. They started off 26 nothing in the first 10 minutes of that game in the second half.
Just a brutalization.
Yeah. They grabbed half their misses, 50% rebounding rate. This team is just tough. St. Mary's never fade this team in the WCC. I know they lost last week, Jim, but don't do it. Yeah, I'd rather bet Mary's.
They lost because they shot 3 of 23 from 3, and it was coming off the Gonzaga win. That was a fluky performance. Credit San Francisco for taking advantage of the egg that St. Mary's laid. But then they went to Oregon State over the weekend, a team who had not lost at home yet and won by 14. They have been outstanding. I think they probably demolished Santa Clara again. Just the defense makes everything so hard, and they're dominant on the glass. They always have been under Bennett, and I think that continues. So yeah, Matt, I would lean St. Mary's. It probably gets bet to like 10 or 11.
Yeah, so KenPom had that 9. St. Louis and George Mason, just to circle back, KenPom has that basically about a pick, which I think is about what it will be, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't
if
know.
Jimerson's out, Mason will be like 2 or 3.
Exactly. The number
Yeah.
will move up Jimerson, no question. And the
It's
last one
so
I wrote
funny
down.
looking back at the St. Mary's Santa Clara game. Like Santa Clara scored their 24th point with 4 minutes left in the first half. They scored their next basket with 10 minutes left in the second half. Just a 14-minute drought.
It's like a good offensive team too. Like that's
Yeah.
So, uh, Kai, the MAC, a lot of Tuesday action. We've kind of mentioned that the MAC gets brought into our trash section because it's just not a very good league this year. Hey, good effort though, MAC against Sunbelt teams. They'll, I guess, winners of the challenge, if that matters to
Yeah.
anyone, which
I
it
think
doesn't.
I
Not even the
think
coaches
they're
involved.
I think straight up they're 8-4 or
8-4,
9-3, 9-3 straight up, maybe
7-5 against the number. I think
7-5 against the number. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, Toledo goes to Miami. Toledo and Miami both winners over the weekend. Miami, we've talked about how they're kind of like the darling insurgent in this league. Toledo is still Toledo, but been a little brittle defensively. Kempom has this at, excuse me, while I pull this
Miami
up here.
6.
Miami minus 6. That seems, I'm sure this will open like
Won't
Miami
be
minus
6.
4,
Yeah.
right? Miami 3, 4 is my guess.
Yeah.
If
And
it's
at that
6,
number,
the
I'd probably
Rocket
stay
Boys
away.
will probably blast off with the
I
Rockets
would
if
love
it's
it to be
6, right?
6. Please hang 6, bookmaker.
Yeah,
Kai,
I'm still
nothing here?
not convinced on Miami. Great win against Troy. But again, we don't think those road teams cared in that challenge, to be honest. So I'm hey, Toledo beat James Madison too. That equally great wins. I mean, Troy's a little better than James Madison, but Miami, look, they've played a slightly worse schedule than Toledo. I don't want to bash their schedule too much because Toledo hasn't exactly played a world beater of a MAC schedule, but Miami has just dominated the bad teams in this league. I think Toledo can give them problems. I still think Toledo potentially, at their best, can beat any team in this league except probably Akron because that team is otherworldly, just not real. I lean towards Toledo, Jim. And if it's 6, you bet I'm going to take the Rockets. If it's 5, you bet I'm taking the Rockets. Even if it's 4, that's going to be a bet for me on this show.
Wow, I think I cut it at 5. I really like every player in Miami's top 7. Like they're
I
all
know.
good.
They're
I
all
like
good.
watching them play. I think they're pretty smart. They've got shooters, they've got size, they've got length. Like Ian Elmer's, I don't know if he's going to the portal or not this summer, but he's going to be like a coveted guy by teams looking for a role player on the wing. He's like a running back that plays wing. But then Suter and Kraft can score like crazy. Kraft's a great shooter. Woolfolk from Rutgers. I don't know, Matt. I lean Toledo after just waxing poetic about Miami, but I actually respect the Red Hawks enough to not jump in if it's lower than 5. I can throw the Steel thing out because I like all the players.
Yeah, I think Steele's done a nice job. I know Steele got a bad rap at Xavier, but like in terms of like just as an X and O, he's offensively they're very very advanced. Like it's a well coached team. It does not reek of any sort of bad coaching whatsoever. I could argue with I'm with Jim. Talent wise, they actually might be more talented than Toledo this season. Toledo's just kind of just a couple guys playing. A couple of those hand-me-down transfer from intra-conference MAC teams like Seth Hubbard, like great. Isaiah, or who's the other guy from Buffalo? Isaiah
Adams is
Adams.
Buffalo. Yeah,
Like all he did was lose at
Well, he
Buffalo. It's
played
like, okay,
UCF too. Play
yeah,
UCF.
well,
it
whatever,
does
that's
help.
fine. I don't know. Anyway, a lot of there. I would like it to be
Worth
7 or 6, but still,
worth
I'm not
noting,
looking
maybe
at.
if you care about trends. If you don't, who cares?
I do
Steele's 0
sometimes.
5, 0 5 against Toledo all time. And
That's
ATS, I'm sure it's
odd
pretty
surprise number.
close, but yeah, he's never won straight up against Toledo.
I can get you that info in a second.
Thanks.
Let's go to live dogs, which we are bad at.
I hate this
picking.
section. I hate this section now.
It was a bad
despise
week
it.
last week. Actually, 2 weeks in a row, it's been pretty bad. Yeah.
Matty Moneyline's alter ego has been basically put on ice. It's very sad.
Well, you took a swing at an 18-point dog.
Yeah. Hey, this is I've now 4 times recommended those that have not covered the spread. You can argue those are good bets because I didn't recommend the spread. So at least you had upside of a chance, even though you actually had no chance. Yeah, LaSalle was absolutely waxed by VCU. Iowa, Wyoming, and Indiana. Iowa and Indiana, the corpses of the Big Ten, and then Wyoming's just kind of bad. Not having your point guard didn't help either. But
Matt, quick research interjection. I told you I get the Miami Toledo numbers. Miami has lost 20 straight games to Toledo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
ATS, they've only covered 3 of the last like 15.
How about that?
It's been a complete
Program
I mean, obviously
strength.
Steele hasn't
Yeah,
been the coach for that time, but yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
wild to see them favored by 5 points, a team they haven't beaten in 20 tries. Sorry, go
let's
ahead.
go to there's only one Monday. I did want to talk Fresno at Nevada. Sorry, I guess there's probably some better ones Tuesday too. Nevada can't score at all. Like this team offensively is a just disaster. And obviously this spread's going to be big, and Fresno is Fresno. Fresno at least has talent and shot making potential. Where again, maybe I'm just kind of reciting the same stupid narrative I said with LaSalle and VCU. The difference here is like Nevada's offense is really bad, where I think VCU's offense is like actually has a gear that can put points on you in a hurry and transition, can make shots. I don't know, Kai. Any interest here? Any appetite to fade a Nevada team that, God, they offensively, just disastrous offensively.
I think not crazy taking spread. Fresno took them to overtime in game one, and they competed with Utah State, and they competed with a couple teams recently. Plus 15 for KenPom. I mean, sure, I would definitely lean towards Fresno at that number. I'm not sure I'm going to get crazy with the money line though.
Nope. No money line here, Matthew. Don't
right.
don't be a loon. I mean, you know what? Nevada's frustrating enough, and they've lost some dumb games in Mountain West play that maybe you're onto something. And since Aguilar left Fresno, I think they've had like a lot better
They've been
chemistry.
kind of, so at home they've been pretty good, actually.
Yeah. That lifeless 18,000 person arena that there's always like 500 people in. It's so
the
bad.
San Jose State effect. It sucks the air out of the building for the road team more than it does the home. It's actually a home
Yeah.
court advantage by quietness, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
All right, Tuesday, we'll stay in the Mountain West. Speaking of San Jose State, right here, Kai. The
Yeah.
Fighting Timmy Miles had the Aztecs on the road, and I mean beaten to a pulp, like down 20. I think everyone thought that comeback was inevitable. The Aztecs roar all the way back. They survive at home. Now you get that revenge opportunity for Tim Miles, who's been an absolute ATS machine this season. Curious what this line's going to be and what the associated value is money line wise, but I think it's worth consideration for sure. I also had UNLV hosting Air Force. Air Force won at UNLV last year by 32. Obviously, Air Force is bad.
Such a wild outcome.
Maybe Joe Scott has I don't know, has like some Air Force military insight into Lon Kruger's office with all the plays or something, and there's an edge there. I don't know. And then the last one, obviously K-State, we discussed. Any appetite, or are we just too gun shy because we keep losing these?
San Jose State, you can maybe get me there. Yeah.
Oh, they'll get you there, Kai.
Number one ATS team in the country, tied with it.
8-point spread per KenPom. So
yeah, 8 points. Yeah, I definitely lean their way on that one. They've been a darling for us. So sure, San Jose State, Kansas State. Yeah, we talked about against Arizona. I don't want to fade Arizona. Air Force, they haven't won a game all season in Mountain West play. I think this team's just like that bad. Unfortunately, I had high hopes for them in the preseason, or at least higher than this. I don't care to bet them. I think UNLV remembers they lost by 32 last year, Jim.
Yeah, the guys that are back, Deedon Thomas specifically. San Jose State is basically the patron saint of this section. I'm gonna ride with them. They're my only pick in this section.
Yep.
Like Matt said, they were up 20 on San Diego State. They were dominating them, and I know San Jose State just played its worst game of the year, probably lost by 27 to Boise, but it was a horrible spot. Second straight elevation game, off of an overtime game, kind of a shortish turnaround. Yeah, double overtime. Now they're back home against a team that I think they've got a lot of confidence against, that also is coming off a loss and isn't really playing that well, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I think Timmy Miles and the boys get it done.
I agree, Jim. I'll join you. My second official play of this show. Let's go to favorites. We talked about Pitt beating Virginia, and then Pitt got absolutely railroaded by Virginia. So again, not a great recommendation there. Akron makes this section again. We had them on last week, mentioning them against Ball State, just sort of riding the Akron wagon. Ball State actually competed admirably. Maybe just a matchup thing we missed in that one. I guess a little more size up front. Maybe it was a kryptonite to Akron this season, but we digress. We'll be better this week. At least we'll try. Monday, a couple of worthy large favorites. Kai, FAU hosting Charlotte. Both teams with tight turnarounds coming back home. Charlotte's terrible. FAU quietly looking pretty damn impressive. That talent crop is really good. And then Campbell against the point shaving NC Aggies. And the Camels are just piss hot, despite one of the most gut wrenching injuries you'll see all season over the weekend. Any interest in these two, Kai? Monday.
I think Charlotte's a pretty good auto fade. I know they just covered against Rice, but they were down in that game. So have some interest in FAU. It's going to be a huge spread. The Camels, man, roll humps. The injury scares me a little bit, but NC they're gutted. They did hang with Charleston, but they're gutted. It's a huge spread as well. But this is McGeehan's best team ever, which is kind of crazy because he had Chris Clemens, who was their best player of all time in that program's history. They're nearly at their peak in KenPom program history. So this is historical, what they're doing this year. And yeah, I think they're going to beat the brakes off A&T. So Campbell will be a play for me. Yeah, I do want to go back to the Akron well, Jim, because Western Michigan, as we saw against Georgia Southern this weekend, they're horrible, horrible, horrible
Yep.
team, and Akron is untouchable in the MAC right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave the Mac to you guys. I feel like I haven't bet it overly well this season, so you guys can zippity doo dah with your zips. But I'm gonna roll with Campbell. I just the way they're playing since January 1st, they are 83rd in the country, better than Iowa, even with San Diego State. Like they're a top 100 team. That's how well they've been playing. I know Sinani did get hurt. He had like the Kevin Ware-esque broken legs, already had surgery, and I think that could be a rallying thing. It's more about how bad NCAA is. They're down to like they are playing six people. That's all they have. That's all that entered the game last time out. Their top two players are suspended. One of them already entered the transfer portal. The guy's being investigated for point shaving. I think they're a little more of a mess, and having one strong effort against Charleston, I think is all right. We left it all out there.
Yeah.
We'll probably go roll over against the Camels. So yeah, I'm gonna lay it up to like 16. It's 14 at Ken Palm. You know, no Sinani, but then also two guys out for NCAA. So up to 16, I'll say with the Camels.
Where were we here? Sorry, I was just gonna maybe add Campbell myself. I feel like that's just like
Roll
NCAA might be one of
humps.
those teams. Uh, all right, two. Where were we? Sorry, and Tuesday. Thank you. Tuesday. Talked about Akron. Yeah, I'm gonna lay with Akron too.
It's
Jim,
going
you
to be
had a few
like
others you
20.
identified here.
Yeah, I can pitch you on either of these two. See what you think. Oregon back home. I don't know what the line will be. I was actually really impressed with them the last two at Michigan State. They did not win either one, and they're in a 5 game losing streak right now. But back home against Northwestern, who is fully running out of bodies. Jalen Leach tore his ACL. Barnheiser's done for the year. They've basically got three of their predicted starting five left, and I think kind of a decent get right spot for Oregon. Problem is, what's the line going to be with the injuries on Northwestern? And Oregon actually has the worst travel. Northwestern's coming from Washington. Oregon's coming back from the Mitten across 3 time zones there. So that's not great. And the other one is Marquette. Get right at home after the 3 straight losses to the other top 4 Big East teams, St. John's, UConn, and Creighton. DePaul's down Connor Enright and Skogman, who I think are two of their like 4 most important
Yeah.
players. And Enright's a dog. Without him, I think you lose a little bit of the attitude. DePaul put a scare in them in the first game, took them to OT. I think Marquette is fully focused as a favorite here coming off their losses, and I think they can blow out DePaul.
I'm
Yeah,
with you on
remember-
Marquette. I'm with you.
There
on
he
Marquette.
is. There he is.
And surely remember almost losing at DePaul, which I think for many of the Big East teams is sort of like an embarrassing moment. Yeah, well, that's easy to transition into spots here. We talked about some of these throughout the program, but I tried to save a couple I really liked. The obvious one, UNC Clemson Kai on Monday, one of the only big games on Monday. Clemson just beat Duke at Little John. Pretty big win by some accounts. Now UNC comes to town 48 hours later. Obviously a huge game, not like a sleepy spot, but how hard did you party Sunday and Monday, Kai? I do want to know. I believe Clemson's one of the older, more mature teams in college basketball. I think they have 2 or
They are.
3 kids with like with kids. Like as a recent dad, I now respect the maturity of what that brings to bear mentally. So I expect a good effort from Clemson, and I think UNC stinks. I'm hoping the market bets Clemson on like a fade of the spot. I'm actually going to count. I'm going to go anti-spot here. I like Clemson, I guess.
Yeah, Clemson.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Palm's got it 7. I'm not laying 7 with Clemson.
I think it'll be like 4 or 5, just to guess where the market opens.
I don't know. Hey, Clemson's really good, really impressive against Duke.
Yep.
This team, like you said, they're a bunch of men. They're experienced. UNC has looked bad this season, but hey, they're a really talented team. You can see them sticking with Clemson here on the road. I would lean towards UNC at 7, Jim. I'm not in a hurry to lay it with Clemson right now.
Yeah, there's another spot versus matchup game for me. Spot's all UNC, but matchup. I mean, everything Clemson did against Duke, they can do against UNC. Like
If not
dominating the
better.
paint,
Right.
shot over 60% from 2, 36 to 23 on the glass. Like every loose ball was Clemson's, and maybe they're not going to have that same desperation, leave it all on the line kind of thing. But it's still North Carolina. Like I know it's not Duke, but that brand means something a little bit. And yeah, if it was a younger team, maybe they'd be reading their own press clippings, but. I still think you get a strong effort. I would actually, I'm with Matt, I'd lean towards Clemson, but again, spot versus matchup. So who knows?
Great time to be a Clemson student hoop fan. Like you get these 2 matchups in your backyard in 72 hours. Capitalize, Orange. Kai, Tuesday, Florida, Mississippi State. Touching this a little bit, right? Florida off that big one, obviously, Mississippi State. How about Auburn, Vandy? Does this intrigue you, Vandy? Going to probably be like a large home dog to Auburn. I don't know. Vandy off that loss to Texas, Auburn off that really home loss. I kind of think it's a good road.
Vandy beat Texas.
Sorry, Vandy beat Texas. Auburn off that loss. I think it's a bad spot for Vandy in what was you were probably hoping as a Vandy fan like a hype home dog spot, but now you've pissed off Auburn coming to town. Your front line's already a little bit undersized as is. I don't know. I think this one could get ugly. We'll see though. Vandy has been plucky at home.
Yeah, very well coached team. I am scared about the size difference. It's massive. Devin McLaughlin is fantastic for Vanderbilt, but he's 6'7". And Jalen Carey, hey, he's been really good as well. Vernon Carey's brother, transfer from JMU, still undersized. You're playing Broome, Cardwell. These guys are enormous, and they're two of the best defenders in college basketball, two of the best rebounders. I'm not in a hurry to fade Auburn, Jim. Hey, laying this many points on the road, Vanderbilt's been really good at home this season. I don't think they dropped one in the SEC play, but you've beaten Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas at home this season. Really tough place to play.
Yeah, the Court Storm kids. They're looking for another one here, trying to rush it at Memorial. But it's a weird gym. We always say that because like the benches are on the baseline. It's an odd situation there. But Kai, you mentioned that Vandy has dropped one at home in league play. I think this plays out like that. Mississippi State got up 20 in the second half at Vanderbilt, and like Matt said, pissed off Auburn. That team's A plus gear is so high. I think we see it coming off the loss. I would lean to Auburn there.
All right, let's go to the trash section. I have not a lot here, kind of a light section, but I'm going to rebrand this the Northern Illinois NIU Husky section because I talked about them, I believe, last week.
They certainly are trash. They are
trash. But Jim, I think they're trash that's rounding into recycled, reusable goods of sorts. They are healthier, and they are playing Buffalo. That's all I have to say. That's the handicap here. KenPom has this effectively 0. I think the Huskies win this game, and this comes from someone who has backed the Huskies the last few, and I'm still pissed off that it did not cover +2. I'm sorry, +1.5, whatever stupid number I got this weekend.
Yeah, very
mad about Louisiana. That. Yes,
like it's the Cajuns who canned their coach.
They were up 13 points. Yeah,
I like NIU. Kai, am I stupid?
Nope, I like NIU too. Buffalo's terrible, terrible. Speaking of, just got slaughtered by Georgia State. Hosting Georgia State in the middle of conference play up in Buffalo, you should win that game. It's shameful that they got handled the way they did. I like NIU as well, Matt. I think they're a better team. Yeah, I think they get it done.
Yeah, they're the more rosy smelling trash.
Yes,
they both stink, but they're the better version.
Hot girl poop.
It's so funny enough, Kai. Get this: Buffalo played NIU after last year's MAC Sunbelt Challenge. Buffalo got that what the hell win at Georgia Southern, like their first win in years. It was like the most surprising result of the weekend, and they lost at NIU the next 2 days later. So hopefully deja vu. We'll see. Hey, some time for the spotlight section. I wanted to highlight the Road Warriors. Talked about this at the onset. The home win percentage, which KenPom so neatly tracks for us on his D1 Stat Trends page. Last year, 59.9%. Year before, sorry, I'm going to get through the, 59.9%. This year, down to 1.5% to 58.4%. So home still matters, right? Home sweet home is important.
Just straight up, by the way.
Yes, exactly. But just it does track with the ATS results for the country at large, obviously. But still, a lot of these teams, I think we've seen, because of what you mentioned, Kai, a lot of these overhyped home spots are overbet. You have even more value to back a road team, one that you trust. I highlighted the top, I best call it 15 teams on the road this season. Some kind of unique trends and kind of combinations of teams here. So the best ATS team in the country is Nichols on the road, 9-1 away from home. Illinois, Chicago, the Flames, which I believe has been a theme for a few years now. Right? Easiest to get out of your city. No one watches you play at home. They are 9-1 away from home. Illinois State, not so far away down in Peoria. Louisville, Creighton, UMass, only 7 road games, but still 6-1 Frank General's team away from Amherst. Southeast Louisiana, as Jim calls them. And then
hate that for my Houston Christian bet.
Tough.
They're home, right? They're not home? They're on the road.
That one's at Houston Christian.
Oh, okay.
And then how about Omaha? It used to be awesome at home. They are 11-2 away from home this season. Nebraska, Omaha. A couple others at Toledo, St. John's, UC San Diego, trying to get that Big West auto bid. Cornell, of all teams, we saw them go into California and win handily. Kent State and San Jose State, Kai, the Timmy Miles. Anything that jump out to you, or any other teams that you want to go down far the leaderboard of like, oh yeah, that team is a real road team, and here's why, or oh, that team's been fluky on the road, and maybe that's distorting their value of sorts.
Just macro noticing here. I'm noticing our macro lens here. Leagues that are incredibly tough to predict. The Valley. I see a couple teams on here.
Valley,
UIC and Illinois State's been impossible. The MAC's been impossible this year. The Southland's really hard to bet. There's like 4 teams on here for the Southland. When road teams are covering like this at this rate and home teams are winning a lot less, it's really hard to bet. It's really hard to win because results are unpredictable. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. I don't know if I'm not a huge like trends guy, and you want to have a reason, be able to explain a trend if you think it'll continue in the future. Otherwise, it's just, hey, it's variance. It happens. But Matt's point about UIC, really easy to get places from Chicago. Great point. And the home environment sucks at UIC, so it's not really their home environment's worse. So they play down, so their road results look better in comparison. I buy that from a trend perspective, Jim, in that case.
Yeah, what you don't see on here is Big Sky teams or WAC teams, or like there's only one Big West team. I think there's only one Mountain West team. The travel still matters a lot. And you got a couple teams in here from the NEC where travel's really, really easy. Everything's a bus ride. I think that is a big, big thing still in handicapping. And I'd keep an eye on that travel spot. So that I mentioned it with Oregon there. They're the home team but have worse travel. I should probably be factoring that in, and actually I'm going to take them off my betting rotation for the week because I'm learning from our spotlight section here.
Good. Take notes. Good to see you digesting, absorbing, Jim. Yeah, Jim, you mentioned Big Sky is 8th in KenPom and home win-loss percentage. This year, WCC is 7th. The WAC is 2nd overall.
That makes sense.
Summit is 11th. 11th. So, but hey, a good reason to always remember that all this is just nonsense and to never rely on any sort of macro trend is the Patriot League currently holds the highest home win percentage in the country.
No idea.
Which was a sort of almost an auto bet the road team type of system for years in that conference with absolutely no travel, all very closely clustered bus league type stuff. But other side, look, Ivy, worst home court this year in only 30 games, but home teams are 11-17 so far.
Straight up. Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
However, they've adjusted the schedule there, so there's not as many back-to-backs. I think those are coming down the stretch. I think that's part of what's at play. Anyway, lots of insights, as always. You're welcome. But we'll try and actually pick better winners. Jim, recap what you're going to take some stabs at.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly do worse than I did last week. So I laid a big stinking egg. Sorry, folks. Sorry, listeners. Hopefully this is a better batch. I'm going to lay it with Illinois against UCLA if it is less than 5. We're calling it -4 per KenPom. Alabama -3, going to lay it at Texas. I just think they're better, and Texas is too reliant on the shot making. San Jose State +8 and the money line, the patron saint of the live dog section. Campbell up to -16. Marquette up to -18. I think they smacked DePaul in the get right spot, kind of similar to Iowa State. Had lost 3 in a row, got TCU at home, won by 30. I think that's what Marquette does as well. Like the spot for Mississippi State, 3.5 or better, calling it 5 right now on KenPom, and then Houston Christian -1, Huskies. That's it for me, Kai. What do you got?
I'm going Bama as well, Jim, at Texas. They're going to get it done. Mississippi State, but I need at least 3 or 4 points. We'll see where the market takes that one. If Elijah Martin's out, definitely like that one for Mississippi State. Taking Purdue against Michigan, against Matt's wishes. So, yeah, a little head-to-head. Head-to-head, Matthew. Sticking with the trend. We just talked trends. Toledo, taking them against Miami of Ohio. San Jose State, I like them at home against San Diego State. Campbell, roll humps against NC Marquette to blow out DePaul. And NIU with the boys here beating Buffalo.
Man. Trash man.
Digging in the trash. That's right.
NIU, sweep. Let's go Fighting Burnos. Akron as well. So I got 2 MAC teams on my card. Only 4 picks for me. Michigan, sorry, Kai. And then Timmy Miles, Moneyline Dog. So 3 spread, 1 Moneyline special. And that does it Folks, we'll be back here as always, same time next week, Monday, Tuesday, getting those slates on lock for you. Enjoy the week and good luck as always. Cheers.